everybody. So I have a special guest with me. Not only is he a dear friend, someone that I've known for nearly a decade in the industry, but this individual has closed on thousands of transactions, closed over $1 billion worth of production in his career, and their team does hundreds of millions of dollars in sale each and every single year. He's got hundreds of salespeople. This guy's built an incredible organization. Brett Sikora, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? Thank you for the fantastic intro.
Love to kind of do a deep dive, man. Like, look, you've accomplished so much in the last decade in this industry, and we kind of feel like our paths have crossed so many different times, and I'm glad we're finally able to work together in this capacity. I'd love to kind of just figure out like why real estate in the beginning. Like, was that always part of the plan? Like, how'd you even get into it in the first place?
Going back to high school, I knew college was never the plan. It was kind of like, what am I going to do with my life? And I realized that mowing lawns was very therapeutic for me. I kind of tiptoed into that, and it's funny because the same thing kind of happened, with real estate. But I tiptoed into well, yeah, I'll cut a lawn. I'll do this. I'll buy an F-150. And then it turned into a trailer, and then it turned into 3 trucks and then 70 accounts. And fast forward to June of 2007, I ended up selling landscaping company after doing it for 4 years. The reason why I'd sold it is I just kind of knew there was an easier way to make money, and there were better profit margins available for the amount of work that I was putting in. And I wasn't crazy about, at the end of the day, regardless of how much money you're making on the landscaping side of things, you were still treated like crap from the consumer, being in work boots and jeans and all of that stuff and being the young kid. So I really wanted a little more respect. I wanted to make a name for myself, and sold the landscaping company. Went and got my real estate license to get into the world of real estate investment. It was 2007 when everything was super cool. You could flip anything, do, all that fun stuff.
Great timing.
And yeah, exactly. 21 years old, getting my real estate license, and looking to get into flips. And unfortunately, I hadn't bought anything. So I didn't get in, like, it had turned enough. It was June of 2007. I had gone through the transaction of selling the landscaping company and was just about to get into really moving and shaking. And we started to see the writing on the wall that things were changing. With that, I kind of fell back. I needed to make money. So I fell back on having the real estate license. And I started to work for a company called Foxtons, which you might be too young for that, but their headquarters, I believe, was in Long Branch.
I still remember it.
So it was these Mini Coopers that would drive around, and it was cool. So it was like, you get a job, I think it was $40,000 base. I was able to get benefits. You got a small slice of a commission on the listing side of things, but they were the funnel, like kind of setting you up for listings.
Similar to like a Redfin today, right?
Correct. Yeah. Redfin's the new version of that. Exactly. The only thing that Redfin's missing is we got super sweet Mini Coopers that drove around on the listing appointments for Foxtons because it was a British company. So I think it was, I don't want to say it was, I don't remember the date, but it was August of 2007. I was supposed to be starting with that company on a Monday, starting with my training. And that Friday, they filed for bankruptcy in the United States. So they closed the door, and I'm like, great, back to the drawing board. What am I going to do again? And that's when I started working with Weichert Realtors, which is who I got my real estate license through. And just to kind of glance over that year quickly, I made no money. I think I did one rental and made like $500 after all the splits around. I had a great mentor that, was kind of guiding me and saying like, listen, you should really be, I was out in the burbs doing it. Like, you should really be out in Hoboken, like with, some younger folks selling real estate and whatnot. And that's when I started to explore that a little bit, got into car sales in July of 2008. And then October of 2008, the automotive market completely crashed. Lehman Brothers was failing. Like, that's when like shit really hit the fan. I started to look for that Hoboken real estate job, and I found an ad on Craigslist that said make 100 grand your first year doing rentals and real estate. So I remember I walked into the office. My Weichert folks were a little pissed off because they wanted me to go to Weichert and Hoboken. And I was like, no, this is cool. This is called Gotham Realty. It's super sleek. It feels like this guy loves Batman. And it was like purple. Like, it was a cool office. It had a very Gotham feel to it. Started there was Friday, October 31st of 2008. It was Halloween. I think that Sunday I took rental clients out, did my first rental. That Thursday I was paid like $750. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm back in business. This is going to work. Fast forward, I was cranking in rentals. I think it was June of 2009. David DeVoe, who you know as well, we started exploring the Mike Ferry system and getting into listings. Rentals were cool. We're doing 20 of them a month. We're making, 6 figures a year kind of thing. Like, it worked well, but we knew there was more. So with that, Patrick Southern, who I still think of him as a mentor on that side of things, was like, I sell 70 homes or I do 70 transactions a year, pretty much by myself with one admin. Heavy listing. My sister Shay supports me on the buy side of things. We were like, awesome. How many rentals do you do too? And he's like, I don't count them. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, that the rentals are not in my business plan. And I was like, oh, okay, we do like 20. And he's like, that's a 20 a month. He's like, okay, that's cool. So we started to realize, like, we're sitting with a guy that's making like $1 million a year. And we're like, this is pretty cool. And he was only like 6 or 7 years older than me. Patrick's a young enough guy. Maybe he's 10 years older than me, but he was only like 31 at the time, or 32. So it was super cool to see. He sent us to the Mike Ferry seminar. We actually signed up for coaching before going to it in Vegas. And it was my first time to Vegas, my only time I've been to Vegas. We came back and hit the ground running. We took 18 listings in 12 weeks between DeVoe and I. And granted, it was a little bit easier of a time to take a listing. There were more people trying to sell. So a little more difficult on that side of things, for sellers versus today's market, but a lot of for sale by owners, a lot of expires, and we were cranking. So the rest is history. Now we're here. No, but there was a lot of ups and downs after that. I mean, I dealt with a lot of mindset issues, and that's why a lot of what I do today brings that into it. It's like it has the empathy around the struggle for the agent, around the fact that, like, I had a 500 credit score. I was completely broke. Like, I know what it feels like to live in that, and I try to help folks not make the same mistakes that I made, and let that, like, I'll say, I mean, honestly, man, when it was hard, like when it was, 2009, 2010, and like I wasn't making money, like I was definitely depressed. I gained a lot of weight, and I want people to, not be stuck in that quicksand that I was really dealing with. And at the end of the day, the only thing that takes you out of anything is taking action. So that's really where my focus has gone, is like 2007 to 2013, Brett. Those 6 years, what did I feel like? Why did I feel that way? Why was I not doing what I wanted to do? And how did I get out of it? And that's where I live to create these $20 million producers.
It's amazing. I mean, it's so interesting, right? When you look back and you think about your first transaction, right? You think about your first rental, you made $700, and now, your team's doing hundreds, if not near 1,000 transactions a year. It's insane to look back, right? I mean, it's such a cool feeling. So I'm curious, like, obviously there's so much to unpack, obviously, between what, I don't even know how long ago that was, 15 years ago, I guess, when you first got your license or thereabouts?
16, yeah,
Yeah.
16, 17.
Yeah. So I want to decompact that, right? Like, or break that all down, right? So first off, I really want to talk about like your first few years in the business and like what you've experienced, because obviously you've hired and had hundreds of people on your team, and you kind of see this from every lens here, as well as living it, right? Which is, where do you see that most people make mistakes in their first few years in the business? Like, where do you feel like, again, residential, commercial, just curious, like, what are, like, maybe whether it's actual activity or or mindset, like, or getting a coach, not getting a coach, what is, like, those maybe big 3 or 2 mistakes that you see?
I think that the biggest thing is people, and this is exactly what I went through, is they're not able to identify what is an income producing activity and what is not. And in our world, it's very easy to feel busy going to broker opens, sitting open houses without purpose, scanning the MLS to see what's come up, working with that one buyer that might buy one day and is putting 3% down, and you think that, like, that's your golden ticket. Really not having, your high income producing activities, your set schedule day in and day out, to make sure that you're building a pipeline that continues to transact. That's it at the end of the day. That's the simplicity of this business, which is, to me, I don't know. There's nothing easier than selling real estate. Obviously, I've come a long way to actually, see that. And we talk about it with commercial too. It's talk to people. It's talk to new people, follow up with the people you've already spoken with, have those conversations with, like, value and integrity, and not just trying to, like, actually build rapport with those folks, and then do it consistently while you're measuring it. A lot of folks too, man. I'll see, like, you played the contact sport when you first, and you still do, but, like, I see so many people that, like, the goal is to hit 20 contacts a day and they hit 16 and leave. But there's so much gold in those last 4. And it's like, you didn't do your job. You didn't actually do, like, I only want you to work 2 hours per day, and you can do whatever you want for the rest of the day, but please just hit your contacts day in and day out.
It's so true, man.
So that's really that's it, man. And people, they just overthink it. And the amount of wins that I hear from people that just pick up the phone and call people that they know. Like, our boot camp, and I went through, again, it was a struggle I had, was really working my sphere of influence, being 21 years old and not thinking that I was good enough to be able to sell that person a home, because honestly, I wasn't. I didn't have the training that we provide for agents right now, and I didn't have the confidence behind the system. And that too is like, when we talk about it, it's like you do it too with commercial. It's like, get somebody to raise their hand, and we're going to come in and be warm and loving and help you close that deal with the experience necessary. But all we need you to do is get somebody to have interest in something. We'll help you the rest of the way.
I agree with you 100%, where it really is it's an incredibly simplistic game. I think Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry or somebody, Tom Ferry says, like, choose your hard, right? Everything's hard to some extent, right? You just got to choose your hard of whatever it is, right? And just go all in on it. I'd like to kind of unpack this really quickly, and because I want to continue down this path here as we progress, which is for that agent who's making sub 100 grand, like a few years in the business, they're really struggling to break through that $100,000. Do you believe that it really is just coming down to contacts, like just the more contacts you put in, the more successful you can get? I mean, I know we think the same exact way. We've talked about this 1,000 times, but like, is it that simplistic? Can you get to a multi six-figure income as simple as 200, right? Like 200 grand a year, just by upping the amount of contacts, being super diligent in your conversations and the way you speak, and being diligent about having, X amount of contacts a day, doing your follow-up and making sure you get some offers written. Is it that simplistic, or is this all smokes and mirrors?
It's that simplistic. Everything else is the smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. Everything else is that shiny object. Honestly, what we have right now on the residential, which marries really well with what we're doing on commercial too, is when people come into our 2-week boot camp, folks will comment like, "Oh, that's so great for new agents." And I'm like, guess what? There's not a single new agent in the room. We stopped hiring new agents in 2022 when the market shifted a little bit. We'll take them if we see like that real fire in their eyes, but we have experienced agents in there. And guess what we do for 2 weeks straight? It's nothing but call through your center of influence in your cell phone. We don't talk about a single other lead source in that 2-week boot camp. And we drive it in their head where if it's a $5 million producer, if it's a $25 million producer, whatever it may be, we focus on Sphere and we make sure that they're empowered in a way where they're willing to have those conversations. Now, again, this is tailored more towards residential. And then from there, we get into the productivity boot camp, which you and I, connected on. And that's more of like, okay, let's get into expireds, FSBOs, all of that stuff. But even through that, you still have to have 5 Sphere contacts every single day. So of your contacts, it still has that makeup. So yeah, it is that simple. I mean, it's as simple as we used to joke when I would be onboarding people like in 2016, 17, and I was really like the director of sales of the team at that time. If I had somebody sitting across the table from me, I'd be like, listen, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to open up your cell phone and you're going to call every single person that's programmed in there. Like literally I want like Henry from Miami that you might have met on a trip. And I want like the guy that used to do your landscaping. And for me, it was a pool company I worked for when I was 14 out of Roxbury, New Jersey. I want you to call every single person and here's your script and here's what you're going to tell them, blah, blah, blah. And if you can't do that, you should leave the business right now, because you're never going to really that's the first level of discomfort that you need to experience as an agent. And again, to go back to the simplicity, if there's 700 people in there, they need to know what you do. Dude, it works with me right now. Like we do over 200 million a year. I could go through my phone and there's people in there that are neglected that probably already know what I do. And I still haven't reached out to them in, you know what I mean? Like it kind of, it's a
forever game that is that simplistic. Just because your team is built around support, coaching, hand-holding, caring for these agents at the highest levels. How valuable is coaching? Did you do it at the beginning of your career? Is it something that you advise your agents to do? Is it something you still believe in?
Yeah. So I made my first, probably second paycheck. I started to make consistent money November of 2008. By June of 2009, I was in one-on-one Mike Ferry coaching. I've had a coach. I've been with Tom Ferry. I've been with Matthew Ferry. I've been with all the Ferries. I've never done Chet Black. I've listened to what he's about and stuff. And I've played around with some other coaching as well. But, for that, it's really big on, it's a big part of what I do. And if an agent doesn't have a coach or doesn't have a mentor, or even like the stuff that you're putting out on YouTube, isn't consuming information and then taking action around that with some sort of measuring, you don't actually even need to pay for coaching in theory. I think it's a great thing to pay for it because people don't have the accountability or the desire to really grit it out and actually do what they're supposed to be doing unless they're cutting a check for something. I'm one of them. There's so much information I can consume and I know I'm supposed to be doing around it, but I really pay people to beat me up once a week on what I didn't do the week before.
I'm the same.
Yeah. But that's the whole value of a team too. That, you're paying through your splits and whatnot. And it's if you want to hide, if you want to not show your numbers, if you want to, it's the same thing. If you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to step on a scale, if you don't want to look at your bank account because there's no money in it. It's like, if you don't want to do the things that create awareness around where you're not today, or and where you want to go, I am of no value to you. You're of no value to them. Like, keep doing what you want to do. Like, that's fine. Complacency is not a fun thing. I'm not fun to be around if you want to be complacent. But if you want to be a racehorse and you want to play all out and you want to row and you want to fight and you want to be gritty and you want to like have a nice life, then let's rock and roll. I think coaching's so powerful if you're taking action. I've coached a lot of people that won't do a damn thing after we get off the call, and that's just a waste of my time,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah, man. Like, it's so much similarity in my life, man. I love this. So let's kind of like then shifting into like, okay, coaching an option, team. How much does your environment, right? The team you join, the brokerage you join, the environment you put yourself in, right? How much does that actually impact an agent's success?
I would say there's I mean, I'm not to toot my own horn, but we're pretty damn good at what we do. I think at this point, including like yourself and like we have, I want to say it's 19 folks, US based, caring about agent success on residential or commercial. And like a lot of other folks, a lot of like, let's go to like the majority of teams I see. Single agent got good at selling, needed leverage, hired a VA usually. It's incredible if they hire somebody US based. If it's US based, it's usually like not somebody that's that good at what they do, but it feels like they're doing something and adding value. And then they bring on, 3 part-time buyer's agents that sell 0.5 homes per year and like do nothing. And the team leader makes up 98% of the business on that, within that organization. And that's a team. Like, that's usually the team that I see. So with that team leader, and they might do 50 million a year, so like they might be cranking, but the team leader probably has a ton of personal development around them and really, geeking out on a process, or maybe they're in Tom Ferry coaching or something like that. But it's very rare that they're taking the time to really develop the folks around them, and a lot of teams I see are set up in a way where it's all about, this is actually why we recently dropped our name too. Like I want it to not be about me at all. And we changed the company's name to Align last year. I want it to be all about the agent and really making sure that their development is the best it can possibly be. Those teams, like the majority of teams, it's very rare I actually see one that's not grown this way, are grown out of the person producing like all heck at the center of the team, and then they really have like overflow valves around them to deal with the shit that they don't want to deal with, and they don't want to pay people to like deal with it either, so they just like throw it on them. There's no accountability around whether or not they're converting leads or anything like that. There's no accountability around whether or not those agents are even successful, because it doesn't fucking matter to them. Whereas for us, when in 2016, when I went to develop this team, I was working with Matthew Ferry at the time. I started coaching with him in August of 2015. And for those of you that don't know Matthew Ferry, he's the son of Mike Ferry and brother of Tom Ferry, who kind of broke off and really focused on like, how do I have a better, more empowered life, and works with a lot of Wall Street guys and everything. He almost became more of like a life coach. So his whole thing is, how do we really balance every aspect of life, including your, time with the kids, your finances, your retirement, like takes a look at the whole global picture and allows you to operate with a really quiet mindset. And we realized that our avatar or our team, like the way that we wanted to go about it, was really developing some of the most badass agents, in the world. And that's why we have like 20 plus, 30 plus $1 million producers that don't leave and are like, here's the fun thing. People are like, oh, well, why would they be on your team? I'm like, what do you mean? They're literally at a 75-25 split, doing $30 million a year in volume with zero expenses. Like, they're netting a hell of a lot more than you are at your $50 million a year. Not you, but you know what I mean. At your $50 million a year, running with $100,000 expenses per month. Like, it's insane to me how much ego is in this business. And that too is, where we really, where I was like, all right, you don't want to join Sakura Group because you want it to be about you. Cool. You have your ego. I'll drop my last name. I'll drop my ego. Let's go net you more money. Let's go help your clients make more money. Like, let's go play all out. And that really that's how Align was founded.
So let's talk about that situation, right? So someone who's doing a few $100,000 a year to maybe even $1 million a year, right? And they're like, let's talk some like simple things. 3 key points. How do I go from a few $100,000 net to $1 million net? Obviously, joining your team in our organization that we're creating is one of them. But beyond that, like, what are some very simple systems that they should have in place in order to see that growth?
Well, one thing for me that really works well is a lot of agents or small business owners, they look at their books maybe once a month, or they look at their, their expenses and profit loss, maybe 6 months, or every 6 months or something, and they're not actually like going through the Ask My Accountant and whatnot. I would say if you're running a small business, pro tip that really has helped me is every single Wednesday, my bookkeeper sends me the Ask My Accountants and then updates my profit loss. So like we really know where money's going. Like we really pay close attention to what we're investing in, and we really pay close attention to like what our pipeline looks like. And you and I, before we got on this, we were just talking about the commercial pipeline and what's coming down through there, and what needs to happen to make those transact. We know when closings are delayed by a week, by 2 weeks. Like I have a really good look at the health of the business at all times, and that's what I feel like a lot of those producers, even if they're a single agent with nobody on their team, they're not looking at like ROI if they're paying for Zillow or if they're paying for LoopNet, CoStar, whatever it may be. What are they investing in or actually getting an ROI on it? And then two, I love, like, it does not, I can do it right now. You can do it right now. Donald Trump could do it right now. And it doesn't matter where, Jeff Bezos could do it right now. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. Doing that 15-minute time audit for 72 hours is like one of the best things ever, where you set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes. When it goes off, you write down what you did for the 15 minutes prior to that. You do that for 72 hours, including like time with kids, all of that stuff, and really start compartmentalizing where you're spending your time. And you'll realize how much time you're wasting throughout the day on non-income producing activities. And it feels like you're working, it feels like you're busy, it feels like you're doing something. And if you look at the book, I'm sure you've read this, but Fanatical Prospecting, it's kind of like, how do you pay somebody to go do that and then fill that time with fanatical prospecting, which is picking up the phone and talking to people or being at events, whatever it may be. That is the only thing that's going to make your life move forward, is if you're replacing bullshit time with high income producing activities and really identifying, like, for me, it's gotten to the point where like I'll coach a group training, I'll get on a podcast, I'll get up on stage, I'll come into the office when we have a call day and create more oomph and energy, around the 20 agents that are in there dialing. But it's less like my highest and best time is not, somebody sent over a buyer presentation to me to look at the other day. And I'm like, I hate to say it, I don't even really know what ours looks like in my own organization. So I'm not that helpful in helping you audit yours. And I think my response was, I'm not even a buyer presentation guy. I'm like, at the core of what I always was, I'm more like, be human and develop deep rapport and get the consumer comfortable in a way where they know that you are of a ton of value to them. And regardless of what's going on in the NAR aspect of things, which also makes commercial shine right now, or agents who are trained in the commercial side of things, because they're a hell of a lot less concerned, you can get them to sign on the line. So it's like having the skills, around that, and just getting into like a deep, meaningful, conversation with folks and everything. That's really what brings the whole thing back. But yeah.
Speaking of NAR, let's talk about that for a quick minute. With the NAR verdict and the commissions changing, and so many people literally worried sick about what's going to change in this industry, hundreds of, or I guess just billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars being paid out in compensation. And this is just the first lawsuit of what could be many. Who knows, right? What is your advice to agents all over? I mean, what are your thoughts about commercial? Because I have my 2 cents on it, but I'm curious to get yours.
I've been saying since this came around and was really getting noisy in like November that it really is, if it goes to that way, it really is no different than the way that we know commercial or the way that we do commercial. And Eric Eckhart was just mentioning that on our Tuesday call too, because he's had a Marks and Millichap background. And it's just really like, I don't know. I mean, it's always a good time to be a listing agent. Mike Ferry's been saying that since 1980. You kind of control everything at the end of the day. And I think that what we don't know is how many listings are actually going to get paid, listed, paying out 0%. I think our organization as a whole, we're going to still have conversations with the seller on why we feel, or the data shows that it's beneficial to offer buyer comp, but we would never turn down a seller that doesn't see the value in that and wants to offer out 0 as well. So we're definitely staying nimble on that side of things. And then also, from that standpoint too, I don't know if, me as a listing agent, I'm certainly not going to run away from my family on a Saturday if a buyer calls me and wants to go see a property that's paying zero comp without negotiating the commission if something's offering, nothing out there. So I think we're going to see changes in the industry. And at the end of the day, it's really going to be the agents that know a little bit about commercial or know a little bit about having those conversations and know a little bit about like adding value. Like my Zoom yesterday at 4 p.m., we were talking about having the most badass off-market website available, because right now all of our off markets through Slack and Follow Up Boss and all of that stuff, where it's available to the clients to go take a look at it, but they have to register and come in and sign a buyer agreement if they want access to it. That's value. I mean, why would you not? That's why a lot of folks work with us right now on the buy side, because we do have a ton of off market inventory available for them. And I think that too, it goes back to like, it's because 50% of my team is like listing based, where they hunt all day long. And on the commercial side of things, with those agents, they're out deal hunting. Like they're not sitting on their hands. Go back to me in 2008, 2009. They're not paralyzed, depressed, eating shit food, like trying to figure out how to do this. They're moving forward and making their freaking contacts day in and day out. So I'm curious to hear your take on it.
This verdict just re-solidifies everything I've been talking about and the shifts that I've been making in my business over the last couple of years around doubling down on commercial, right? Why commercial real estate, I believe, is the biggest opportunity for residential real estate agents in this market right now, right? I think that number one, not only did it change my life financially and in so many other ways, but I think that by becoming a dynamic realtor, which is sort of the resi-mercial mindset, like we've been talking about for so long, Brett, where like if you have that dynamic where you understand how both sides of the same coin work, right, and you're a listing-based agent focus, whether you're on commercial or residential, and you're just pounding for sellers, you are not going to feel the difference. Matter of fact, you're probably gonna make infinitely more money, right? Even with the NAR verdict occurring, and like you had mentioned originally, it doesn't affect commercial people, right? The vast majority of deals in commercial real estate are done off market. They're not, a lot of them are not listed, so it's like it doesn't even touch there's no issue whatsoever for the most part. There will be zero change in the commercial real estate landscape whatsoever for the most part. And I think if residential agents even knew one sliver of what was possible in the commercial real estate world, I think they wouldn't be worried whatsoever. I think they'd be actually more excited for what's to come. So
yeah, I was going to say too, on the residential side of things too, we talk, there's so many shithead agents out there too, man, that like they really alienated themselves. And if this goes through in a way where they're talking about July, where from what I hear is they're trying to break the NAR MLS, like agents needing to be members of that. Like, I think there's going to be a little more of like a New York City lawlessness that's kind of, comes out from this, which is going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think if that does happen, you're going to see mega teams. Like I'm in conversations with some other residential folks right now, talking about like not even joining my team, but just creating like more of an alliance where we're like a yacht club and play into that off-market website and stuff like that too.
agreed.
Just where we all kind of like almost like a not like a treaty, but something where like it's like, hey, I'll put my stuff in there, you put your stuff in, you take care of my people, I'll take care of your people, and then everybody else can kind of go do whatever they want to do, or they can join us.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
I think you can see some of that forming as well, where, and two, like I don't know the ins and outs of it, but the way that I'm reading it right now too is if you take a 6% listing, for instance, as a listing agent, you could then, since you're not showing buyer comp on the the MLS anymore, which is what the lawsuit accomplished, like they're for some reason happy about that, you could see it where a listing agent just keeps the full 6% if they don't like the other broker or they're tough to deal with, and tells them that there's 0% to be paid out, and then you have a 8% commission being paid out on one real estate transaction. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. But at the end of the day, I think that going back to coaching, it's a volatile time where realtors are definitely feeling uneasy about certain scenarios. And it's really, there are resources out there like your resi-mercial training or your straight commercial training to give them, the tools to really sharpen their knife and make sure that they're not sitting on the sidelines just watching or going back to corporate America. Like we had agents that, I'm hearing are earning 6 figures a year that are just like, screw it, I'm done. I'm going back to corporate America. Or the old school broker that's like, I fought through '08. I fought through when Hurricane Sandy hit Hoboken. I fought through COVID. I don't have another fight, man. Let me go. Let me move on. And I'm going to just sell the brokerage, which nobody's buying anything specifically after Friday. But it's like kind of like, what are the options? Like, do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to go in, be there day in, day out and keep fighting this fight? And for me, I've been in it for 16 years, but I'm still only 37. I got a 2-year-old and 3-year-old at home. Like, I got a hell of a lot of fight left in me, and you're younger than me, where like you'll text me sometimes and I'll be like, dude, I'm tired. Let's just talk tomorrow. But you have so much energy in you. So, and that's the makeup of like our whole organization. It's like surround yourself by people that want to march through this, that want to dominate. And at the end of the day, just like you said, this is an opportunity to make even more money. This is an opportunity to really demonstrate value to the consumer. This is an opportunity to really get sellers more money, to really get buyers better deals, to help find off-market stuff, match things together, both on commercial and residential. And the ones that play all out and are part of that, sky's the limit.
That's for sure, man. So what about company wise? Like why there's so many different people when they start, I mean, 100 people on your team plus at this point. And why did you not start your own brokerage? Like again, what company did you end up choosing to be with? Why are you a part of that brokerage? And I'm just curious, like why hasn't that shifted?
So, I mean, look, we're set up like we have 4 offices. We have managing brokers at all. I'm sitting in an office right now, managing brokers. We're, fully compliant with the real estate commission. We're third party on every single thing that we do, and we broker through EXP Realty. I think that like it would be very easy for me to go independent, and to me that feels so short-sighted.
Mm.
Specifically talking about like this NAR stuff that's going on and stuff. I would hate to be sitting out on an island right now and not having the collaboration that I have access to. Like the off-market website that we're building, I'm modeling off of 2 other off-market websites that were
Which
shown to me
EXP is
yesterday on a
exactly
mastermind.
EXP is even creating that too.
Yeah, well, exactly too. And EXP has their whole it's already created. But like creating those systems and stuff around that where it's like, how are you pivoting? I was in a mastermind where it's all $50+ million producers yesterday. We're figuring out, what tools, what resources we make available to our agents. And as an independent, you don't have access to that. Talk about a yacht club. You don't have access to that yacht club. You're out there. And what I think is great too about EXP is it removes liability for me as a broker. Like I can show you once a day. I write back, I don't know, I'm not the broker, but here's the broker. And you get in touch with like our 7 state brokers here in New Jersey, and they have the answers to your questions that don't bog me down in like, I don't know where that contract is. I don't want to know what contract you have to use there. It's not where I want to live. And if I did, I'd have my own brokerage. So I don't know, EXP, man, it's a very, like, the brand is great. It's a great vehicle. We brought over 1,200 people into the organization at this point in time too, which I don't want to say it's not easy to do, but it's not hard to do either. Like the simplicity behind that is exchange value with realtors around you. Like actually pick up your phone, talk to people, do what you're doing. Like you have a good downline too. It's like help people build, help people be better versions of themselves, and you just become a magnet. Like you actually just attract people to want to reach out and want to be around your energy.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think it's people. I love when you said short-sightedness, because it's like, yeah, sure, you could go open up your own brokerage. Yeah, sure, you could be with any old brokerage and deal with whatever splits, and maybe some splits are better somewhere else or whatever it is. But it's like when you have the long-term mindset of growth and collaboration and community, it's an unlimited opportunity here. Let's talk about commercial for a quick few minutes here, which is someone like yourself, again, doing several $100 million on the residential side. Why did you see value in the commercial side, building a commercial division, and what's your outlook on that?
I hate to say it, man, but it's the money. There's so much money in commercial. I live a nice life. I live in a nice house. My wife and I earn a good living. We drive nice vehicles. We go on whatever trips. Like we live a nice life. But what I jokingly said when I wanted to get into commercial is like I want to see checks come across our desk and also our agents' desks and stuff that actually is like a $2.2 million paycheck was shown to me. And that's kind of like what opened it up, where I'm like, okay, cool, 50% to taxes. You still have 1.1 after that. And then from there, you can put 400 into savings. You can get a 911 Turbo S, and you can still go buy a $1 million 6-unit building with 200 grand down. Like, people don't realize that there's like that's like life-changing money. And we've had 6-figure income or 6-figure commission checks and stuff in the world of residential, but like we've never had a 7-figure one, and we've never had a high 6-figure one. And selfishly, it's like there's money. You talk about highest and best use of like your time. You talk about like high income producing activities. That's kind of it. It's like I know we'll do over $1 billion in residential fairly soon. Like I know we'll get there, but we also want to do 10 billion in resident or in commercial as well. And we know that like this vehicle opens up life-changing commission checks for these brokers. And what I like too, and you always preach this, it's like you're taking our top producing agents who are already earning a really good living and they're already doing $20+ million per year. And you're opening their eyes on how to like, it's like, don't stop doing that. But maybe Thursday and Friday, we do a little whale hunting, and let's whale hunt for maybe like a year and consistently. And if I can get you that 300, 400, 500, and they don't all have to be that big. I'm just using like, that's where my brain goes.
Yep.
But if I can get you some of those to land, it actually, it is life-changing stuff that comes through. And what's cool is we're watching you do it. We have agents with some really cool stuff in the pipeline right now, as well, from working specifically with you. And like we see it, like it's actually here. Like the whole thing is the transactions are going to happen. They're out there happening. People like who sell a Cessna 250 or whatever those, $250,000 planes are or whatever, are the same people that can also sell, Bezos's jet. Like it for $80 million. It's the same thing, it's the same process. It's just a decision on whether or not you want to be a part of that. And when you and I aligned with each other, that was a decision I made. And the folks that have, decided to join your club so far also too know that they're capable of more. They want to change the future of like what's available for their family. And they want a little more freedom. I mean, residential too, it gets freaking rat racy, man. You know that. Like that can easily be a 24/7 gig where you're 7 days a week. Commercial gives you a little more of a break. It's not crazy to text somebody back on a Saturday and say, hey, I'll give you a shout Monday morning when I get back to the office. It's a better world from everything I've experienced so far. There's nothing wrong with residential. We love it, but we like to marry the two. And that's the term residential. Like I like the residential agent that's killing it, that knows there's more available and wants to play in that world a little bit too, because they already have the discipline to make money.
So powerful, man. And it's like as soon as they clicked with me, I remember earning my first check in commercial, which was like 70 some odd thousand bucks. So it was like 70, 72, 75,000, something like that. And I was like, this is like 5 of my normal checks. Why am I spending? And I did almost like very little work for it. And I was like, this is insanity. If I could do this once, I could do it again. And if I could do it twice, if I could do it several times a month, or if I could do that, I mean, the money's insane. And yeah, man. So I couldn't agree with you more there. So let's talk about what the future holds for you, right? So again, you're doing several $100 million a year already as a team. You have over 100 agents working with you now. What's the future look like? What's your goal? What's your vision? And how can people get in touch with you?
We're focused on like my avatar where I'm in those conversations is smaller and larger teams than ours, figuring out a way that we can align, figuring out a way that we can merge P&Ls, merge expenses, really level up. What I try to do is stay, for the residential side of things, is stay fairly local. I want to be able to drive to the offices. There's so much business that's done in central and northern New Jersey and New York City and Long Island and Connecticut and stuff, like very drivable, where we can, spend time together and all of that stuff and actually come to the office and meet the agents and play all out. And then on the commercial side of things, it's really thinking on a much larger, looser location-wise scale, where same thing. I mean, we can talk about that other, 100 agent team that might have 12 killers on it that want to be in commercial and get them into commercial and open up a new revenue stream for both them and the team leader and us as well. So like that's the fun thing is we're able to like actually change things. We're able to actually, like, you'll let people plug into like one of your trainings for free. We'll let people come sit in our office and kind of see what it looks like for free. I'll run a transaction on the residential side of things for you if you're at Compass or whatever company you may be at. So you can actually see and feel what it's like to be on the other side of where like we truly believe the grass is greener, because our systems are built from everything that I didn't like when I was on a team and whatnot. If somebody wants to get in touch with me, I always tell Instagram's probably the easiest. Brett.Sakura, first dot last name. Shoot me a DM, follow me. I'll follow you back. That's where I live without blowing up my cell phone and whatnot. But yeah, if you want to schedule a call, if you want to get in touch with me or Henry, we can get you in with our directors of growth and kind of see what next steps would look like if if you're an experienced agent looking to level up.
Let's finish it up with if you're talking to your younger self, right? I know we're both pretty young guys, but if you're talking to your younger self in the industry who's making whether it's first few days in the business, first few years in the business, and they're just struggling, right? Whether they could be even making a few $100,000, and as someone like yourself, where your first paycheck making $750 to now where your team's doing millions and millions and millions of dollars in commissions, what would you want to say to just kind of instill some whether it's motivation, tips, any kind of? idea for you.
I would say I'm going to quote my father-in-law on this one. He's a financial planner with RBC, and he always says money makes money. One thing that I didn't realize is like I didn't even open a 401k until I think I was 33 years old, like 4 years ago or so, or 5 years ago. I was making good money in my young 20s, good enough money. I was living with low expenses. I would say get your shit in order. Make sure you have a good CPA, make sure you have a good plan, make sure that you are setting aside an appropriate amount of money. I was doing a lot of flips, through my late 20s, kicking myself now because I should have acquired them with a buy and hold strategy. A lot of times people will say never sell real estate. A lot of the big guys you'll hear never sell off your portfolio, never sell anything. Obviously 1031, you can do all that and talk to Henry about, how that works, but that would really be it. I've been through so many markets and so much opportunity at this point, where had I really focused on making the most amount of money as possible and really focused on having as much of a delta between my income and my expenses as possible over those years, I probably wouldn't even be on this podcast right now. I'd probably be on a beach somewhere. It's funny how fast time goes by and how if you're not hyper-focused, going back to like that P&L that I mentioned earlier, if you're not hyper-focused on what your goals are as an individual to get where you want to go, time's going to just fly. You're going to be making money and you're going to realize that you're not actually building something for your future. And that's really where, we talk about sales process and everything like that. Like when I have agents text me at 29 years old that they just hit $1 million net worth, like that's what makes my heart sing. That's the difference. And again, we talk about me forming a team to change the experience that I had. I got through my 30s, into my 30s, where I was 29 years old when I started the team, and everybody at the time was younger than me on the team. And I was trying to create a different life for them so that they don't make the mistakes that I made. And now we have 28-year-old kid who just bought a $1.7 million 3-family and lives in one of the units. Like, how cool is that? That's what we want. I want them to be retired by the time they're 40.
That's a good way to end the podcast. I love it, man. Well, look, thank you, thank you for being on here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for just being a great friend, great mentor to so many of us. We appreciate it, man. So, again, besides Instagram, is there any, that's just the best way to get in touch with you if people want to connect?
Instagram's the only way you'll find me ever. No, I'm kidding. My cell phone's 973-590-8205. Give me a call, shoot me a text. I'm always available. I answer more than I should.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for being on here, and thank you again for sharing your wisdom.